For instance, if somebody says the wrong thing to you or somebody insults you, you would get angry. But how do you respond to that anger or that emotion is another question. So anger is an emotion that needs to be validated. Permits me to say that yes, anger is an emotion that needs to be validated. When anger becomes aggression, yes, at some point anger can become aggression. And do you know how anger becomes aggression? Hello, good afternoon. How are you doing? Good afternoon, good day, wherever you are. And welcome to another episode of Copper with Kiki. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. If you're joining me live or if you're watching the replay of this, my name is Bukola Jolugo, fondly referred to as Kiki, and I am the founder of Joshua's Army, where we raise men who are focused, enlightened, and well-developed, men with vision, purpose, and men who know how to channel their strength. Welcome again to another episode of Copper with Kiki. And so what have we been talking about since this month of August has been an interesting month, and we've been talking about different things around our teenage boys and aggression and the way they respond to things. And today, what I want to talk about is signs of teenage aggressions. And the reason why I want to talk about signs in particular is a lot of us think anger is aggression. But no, anger doesn't necessarily or always mean aggression. And why would I say that? We think anger is like a negative emotion, but not all of the time. I think anger is actually not a negative emotion, because anger is as a result of something, is as a result of getting something across, or when something is not necessarily going the way it should go. So I can be angry about my productivity level. I can be angry about, okay, for instance, I'm looking for job or looking for something, an admission, and I'm not getting it. I can get angry about that. And so sometimes anger is a channel or an avenue or a motivation, if that makes sense. So instead of thinking that anger is negative, anger could actually be a positive thing depending on how we respond to it, or the reason for that anger, or the underlying reason for why we are upset. For instance, if somebody says the wrong thing to you or somebody insults you, you would get angry. But how do you respond to that anger or that emotion is another question. So anger is an emotion that needs to be validated. Permits me to say that yes, anger is an emotion that needs to be validated. When anger becomes aggression, yes, at some point anger can become aggression. And do you know how anger becomes aggression? When it is not validated, when it is not accepted and understood or expressed appropriately. So my younger brother says something to me and I'm angry about it, I keep it inside of me. My mom says something to me, I don't like it, and I keep it inside of me. For instance, a couple of days ago, I actually rang my mom and said, Mom, I'm angry with you. And she was like, oh, what have I done? And I told her what she did that I didn't like, and we talked about it. And actually that thing ended up being as a result of what I had done or my response to something previously. So she was like, oh, this is what happened previously. So that thing that happened previously was why she interpreted or behaved the way or did what she did. So that means the foundation of that anger was even me, not her. But the thing, what I'm trying to say here now is the fact that I was able to express my anger, tell her about what I was angry about, tell her what I didn't like. Even though she's my mom, she listened to me and we talked about it, and then we're fine. So When anger can become aggression if we don't open up, if we don't talk about it. It can become, it can lead to aggression. So there's something I tell my boys. They actually had an argument, I think a couple of days ago, that older brother was really very upset with his younger brother, and I could see that because I was there when it happened. I could see the misunderstanding, what this one was thinking about and what the other person was thinking about, what was going on in their head before that argument happened. And so my older son was really very upset with his brother, and he just said, you know what, I'm done with this, and he just left. Because at that point, younger brother began to cry, and there wasn't that understanding. His own way of letting out his anger was crying. Older brother's way of letting out his anger was just, you know what, I'm done with this, and then he left. So later on, I said to both of them, I said, you need to talk about this. I understand what has happened, but it's not my place to talk about it on each other's behalf. I need both of you as brothers to come together, sit down when you both are calm, and talk about this. And this afternoon, I was asking my older son if he understands. I think this happened 2 days ago, and so I said, I think we were talking. I can't remember what we were talking about, and I said, have you guys spoken about it? No, but we are going to. But we're good right now. We just want to be sure that we're calm to talk about it. And I said, do you understand the reason why I said you should talk about it? And we now started analyzing the reasons. And one of the reasons is so that it's not bottled up. Then when it repeats itself again, then there is an explosion that can lead to aggression. Right? So the question is, when we talk about aggression in teenagers, what do these aggressions look like? May I say to you that sometimes silence is a form of aggression. When you're saying something and all the teenager is saying is, okay, and then they go away and do their own thing, or exactly the opposite of what you've said to them. So, and like I said last week, sometimes aggression is, when teenagers become aggression, they're not necessarily wanting to be aggressive, but they want to be able to pass a message across. So when your teenager goes to do his own thing, the focus is not on that act, but on the why. And that's why we do not define our children, our teenagers, by the things they have done. Because when we begin to define them by the things they have done, it becomes an issue. And when you're defining someone by something, that thing is what you keep saying. That person automatically begins to repeat that thing that you're defining them by. So another thing aggression means is when there are constant, or when there is a constant rivalry between siblings. That could be a sign of aggression in the home. They're always arguing, they're always fighting, there is never a moment of peace between them. They might be trying to communicate something. That means we need to pay attention to something. And again, look at the underlying thing. A lot of the times, oh, you are doing this to your brother, you're doing this to your brother, you shouldn't. No. I love to look at the fundamental. I love to look at the foundation of things. What is this thing? Why is this thing happening? What has triggered this thing? Because when we look at, the surface, the reaction, the effect, we miss the fundamental, and that fundamental is there. That foundation is there. So I always love to look at, beyond the surface to why is this thing happening like this. I shared a video on my Instagram page and my Facebook about a boy who was being interviewed, and he was saying that he doesn't talk to his parents because he feels it's popular, is this, and his parents and all that. So he doesn't speak to his mom, he doesn't speak to his parents because they're not relevant. That's the word he used. And if I was watching that video, I watched that video like 3 or 4 times, and I was thinking to myself, why will this boy think this way? The things he's saying are wrong. His responses to the answers he's being asked are wrong. But where did this start from? How did he get there? So far above the things the boy was saying is the why and how he got to that point of saying those things. And that's also looking at the foundation. What has happened? Has he been told some things? Does he have some beliefs? Has he been told some things? Has he heard some things over and over and over? That those things need to be uprooted and taken care of. And that's the same thing with, sibling rivalry. Why are they always arguing? What's that foundation? What's happening? Another thing to look out for is teenage aggression, when there is suddenly a shift in result or response. For instance, the child that is doing so well and suddenly there is that switch. I think we should pay attention again to that fundamental thing, that foundation above what we can see on the surface. And how do we, when we notice these fundamental things? Hi Tofa, hey Tofa, my love, I've missed you. We should catch up, Tofa. We should really catch up. And well done for all the things you're doing. Well done. God bless you. So when we look at the foundation, the beauty is, or the good thing is, in looking at the foundation, is we're able to break down those foundational things. Because if we don't break them down, now it's like when a tree is planted. If you keep pulling off the branches, cutting off the tree, which is the cutting off or dealing with the aggression, the surface aggression, we're not looking at the roots cause. So there's this thing we call in business that we do root cause analysis in my profession. When you look at the root cause, you're able to analyze it, and that's how we will now be able to deal with the roots, cut off the roots completely. Because if we don't, the branch will grow again, another root will sprout again, another tree will sprout again, other branches will sprout again, and it will become a lifetime issue if care is not taken. So the foundation is very key and important to deal with in teenage aggression. How else can we notice? What are the other signs? If you think about any signs of teenage aggression, please feel free to drop them. But what are the other signs of teenage aggression? We've talked about sibling rivalry. We've talked about silence, withdrawal. We've talked about change in productivity, or what results that our children, our sons are getting. Another one is, even though I said earlier on that sometimes anger is not an aggression because it's an expression of an emotion, but when anger becomes consistent, it becomes a regular thing, and outbursts become regular, it could be a form of aggression. Also, self-harm. In the UK, statistics is being that self-harm is more popular amongst the Caucasian and our children's Caucasian colleagues and counterparts. But do you know now that it's becoming a thing amongst people of color? Self-harm. So self-harm is also a form of aggression. How often do you sit down with your teenager just to chat with them, but observe them? Part of the skills of my profession is observation. I do a lot of observation. So when I'm looking at my teenagers, in fairness, I'm not only seeing the surface, I'm observing them, what they are saying, the way they are behaving, their body reaction, their body language. I'm observing that. And then when I do that, it's easy for me to pick up some things that are unusual in them. And as a parent, I don't assume. So when I see some things that are unusual in my teenagers, sorry, I'm looking now. Somebody's standing by my window and looking at me. When I see some things that are unusual in my teenagers, I ask them. Maybe whenever, okay, hi, I noticed this. I noticed something like this. Is there anything we need to talk about? What do you think? And if they say, oh no, mom, fine, nothing, baba, I go, okay, awesome. But remember, I am always here. Remember, you can always talk to me. I don't pretend to my teenagers. When I observe something, I don't push it away. I don't pretend I've not observed anything. I am open with them. And our teenagers appreciate openness. So another thing is we must learn to be open with our teenagers when we notice these things. Now, remember the way I said it. I didn't say I'll go, you did it, you did it. I have noticed XYZ. Is there something I need to know? Is there something you need to talk to me about? I will not accuse or define them by that thing I have noticed. No, I don't. I ask and I find out, I inquire, and not accuse or define them by those things. And so all of these are various signs of aggression, and I think I've touched a bit on how we can manage or handle these signs when we begin to notice them in our teenage boys. Do not take them for granted. A lot of things are happening out there. A lot of things are happening, and again, when our boys are showing these signs of aggression, 80 out of 100 of them are not necessarily wanting to be aggressive, but they're trying to draw our attention. They're trying to catch your attention. They're trying to get you to see them, notice them, and hear them out. That's what most of them are trying to do. So when you notice this, it's not time for you to begin to call names, judge, condemn, accuse, and all of that. It's time for you to ask and listen. I always go by this Bible passage where God says to us to say, come, let us reason together. So it's a case of, this is what I've seen. Let's talk about it. And when they talk about it to you, know that your first role when they're talking about it is to listen and listen and listen. A lot of the times when they're talking, the solutions or ideas will come to their heads, and they would discuss whatever ideas come to their heads with you. I hope this has been helpful. My name is Kiki again, and I'll see you on Copper with Kiki next week. Same time, same place. And I love you.